Good evening. Got a bit excited there because some blue sky was starting to appear, but it's kind of going already. Had the allocated half an hour at 5:30. Anyway, dabbed in here and there on the radio occasionally. I am doing less these days because it is just the same subjects and they're all really annoying. So I'm finding less is more at the minute, which I recommend in general. But as ever, I'm just really annoyed at the ongoing kind of Britain bashing that has been going on for so long, but is just on another level with this government. The little bit I heard on the radio was about DEI again and just all these jobs and quotas of businesses who are looking at your skin colour as to whether you get the job or not. And it's always white people seemingly that are being discriminated against in their own country. Like, what other countries do that to their indigenous kind of population? Is there any? I don't know. But Britain seems to be doing it very well. And unfortunately, it seems to be mostly white. Sorry, I'm walking a dog and he's spinning me around. White British men. They're repeatedly put to the bottom, even though suicide is its highest in that group, and white boys are at the bottom of the educational pile. Yeah, they never get any help, do they? They never get any support, no special scholarships, no government focus for them, no pro-discrimination. No, they just get forgotten about and ignored and blamed for stuff they don't do. The DEI thing is the most regressive, divisive, kind of agitating thing I think I've ever known, bar net zero. As I said, in the 90s, all the pop bands had people of different colour, all the big sports stars, people of different colour, all the big musicians, people of different colour. Nobody cared. Literally nobody cared. And ever since these real far left ideologically driven Marxist types have seen their voices get a bit little too loud, for me, the kind of race relations situation is worse than I've ever known it. That's down to the lovely left. Anyway, net zero, as I mentioned, just destroying farmland up and down the country. 70 football-sized areas are now going to Metal Utopia near Scarborough, destroying more arable land. And we're one of the worst countries in the world for our biodiversity and our food security. There's thunderbugs here. Do you know what thunderbugs are? They're really irritating little tickly things that come from the crops. Anyway, won't complain. Our food security is less than 50%. And that was before all of this solar panels. So I would presume we're way below that now. So whoever's in charge doesn't seem to think Brits need food, or they just think we're going to just buy it in from overseas whenever we want. Let's hope that all goes to plan A. The boats keep arriving every day. Unknown men, young, fighting age men, no documentation generally, often from cultures very different to our own, with very different ideologies and norms and opinions. Nothing's getting done, and the taxpayer is having to pay more and more for it, figuratively speaking and financially. And this little island is pretty much bankrupt, and yet they don't seem to want to do anything about it, and just happy to continue to add to the millions that we're paying every day for these people that have broached our borders. If it was a geopolitical move to financially destroy a country, it'd be quite a clever one. If you had a country that was so woke and pathetic, you could use that against them. if it had been a plan by anybody, that is. Cost of living is insane. Schools are shutting because they can't afford the bills. What a sad situation when you've got schools that have been around for hundreds of years now saying they can't afford to continue running because of the cost of living for electricity and water and all the business rates that lovely Labour have put up. We have got the highest living, I think, in the Western world, if not the world, cost of living in terms of energy bills and everything, which net zero is adding to because of the huge subsidies, because we won't use our own gas and oil that literally is under our feet, God-given, but we'd rather buy it in at huge quantities, and environmental damage from big tankers crossing the seas every 5 minutes. So the UK is just getting really psychologically bashed constantly. As you know, white man bad, that's taught to our kids. Britain history bad. Toxic masculinity, obviously we can't have strong men. God, what society needs strong men? Our one, desperately. We've got the Chagos Islands just getting given away willy-nilly. No real discussion there, no real need, no legal need, no need whatsoever. Just ideologically driven again, and people, perhaps like China, have taken advantage of the fact the UK has got its weakest, most inept, stupid government in history. So that's getting taken away from us, and we have to pay for the loveliness of it all, which puts us at security, much higher security risk. Like we, I think with recent events, a plane had to take a huge detour because otherwise they'd have to let the Chagos Islands know in advance, and potentially China could get hold of that information, all this kind of stuff. Just complete madness, utter madness. We've had the government in talks with the Falkland Islands and Gibraltar. They literally just seem to be wanting to weaken our position wherever they possibly can. And then it's more talks on reparations. Again, slavery started a long, long time ago, before Britain got involved, started in the Middle East, Africa, worst perpetrators, Middle East and Africa. First documented slaves were white. Shall we start asking for reparations from the barbarians? What about the Romans, the Normans, the Vikings? What about asking Germany for reparations for the World War? There must be many. Or the Ottoman Empire, surely. Mongolian Empire, they must have done stuff. What about Africa, who sold their own people? The African kings, all this kind of, it's just so much nonsense. And the wonderful Rafe Hadel Mancuni is definitely the person to listen to on that subject. He's simply the best, and will tell you all the facts about how those areas in the world that did have British occupation are statistically and factually doing so much better than the areas that didn't. Perhaps we should charge areas that we went to for any infrastructure we put in, any legal system, educational system, energy system, transportation system, the language that they're using, etc., etc. Maybe we should do that. And the fact that we borrowed so much money to buy the freedoms of the slaves, and we only paid that off, I think, around 2020. No other nation's done that. And the fact we lost hundreds of our navy at sea trying to stop Africa continuing the vile trade that we banned. Africa didn't want to. No. And I think more people from England and Ireland were taken to say America as slaves than people from Africa. I need to confirm that one. I think or Africans say to the UK maybe. Either way, slavery happened everywhere. There were empires everywhere. No one is special in that regard. I do think it is correct in the fact that slave comes from the word Slav, which means white, again, because they were the first documented slaves. Either way, all of this is just constant British bashing. Where is this happening anywhere else? Where are these boats relentlessly turning up? Where are they teaching constantly to hate their own culture and people? Where are they making basic energy costs so ridiculously expensive? It goes on and on and on. And you listen to Trumpy and it's all America first, and you need to buy it from America, we're going to make it in America, America security first, American people first, American culture's the best, wave the American flag. Oh, so brilliant. So brilliant. And your heart just sings and your head's like, yeah, this is what it means to live in a kind of sensible, logical, rational society that wants to progress and do well. Yeah. And then you kind of turn the TV off and you come back to bananas Britain with Keir Starmer et al., who wouldn't know how to fry a fish in a pan. Anyway, I'm just really sick of it. I want to go back to the 80s and the 90s, where Rule Britannia was brilliant and we had the Spice Girls and just so much brilliant Britpop, and London was booming. It was great. The British flag was being waved everywhere. Business was great. People were happy. There was no divisive nonsense and ideology being taught. You could put your lights on without worrying about having to take a second mortgage out. And there were no boats turning up. It was just brilliant. Anyway, I'm off to go have my tea and have a lie down.